milk is more non-vegetarian than eggs are. So do you know there's a Jain potato?
Which grows above the ground?
Yes. Most of the vegetables that we eat in India today are not Indian. I mean, if you look at today's diet, for example, we've basically ripped off the Mexicans. Food growing that we had. The first thing that we did with grain 14,000 years ago that we know of was make beer. So every chapati is a glass of beer that lost out on its destiny.
Okay.
The Western world has 4 tastes. We've added umami recently.
Yeah.
India has been into 6 tastes for a very long time. Why tadka at the end? Tadka at the end because you want to use minimum amount
amount of oil.
So cooking in oil and then giving a tadka is basically defeating the purpose.
Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of A Century of Stories India, brought to you by IDFC First Bank, now recognized by Forbes among the world's best banks of 2025. I'm your host Kunal Vijayakar, and today we're going on a journey through the kitchens, courtyards and canteens of India's past. From the 1800s to the early 1900s, what did India eat? How did wars, migration, colonization and trade change our thalis? And what can our food history tell us about who we were? To help us stir this pot of history, I'm joined by the great Dr. Kurush Dalal, archaeologist, historian and culinary anthropologist. He's an old friend of mine, a man who can trace not just where your rajma came from, but how your grandmother's masala evolved over centuries. So pull up a chair, maybe grab a plate, and let's dig in. Kurush, was that a good introduction or what?
That was an amazing bloody introduction. Thank you very much, my man.
Listen, first of all, I'm so thrilled that you're here because it's always a pleasure talking to you. I don't think there is anybody I know who has more knowledge about food and history and the archaeology of food, if I may call it that, more than you. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kunal. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Okay.
So don't worry about that. And it's really good to be back with you in front of cameras and on the mic. And I think we're going to have a good time. But I need to kind of put a little speed breaker in the works by saying I study history from about 11,000 BC till today. That's 13,000 years.
Okay.
You've basically taken 12,800 years out of the running by sticking only to the 1800s onwards. I think we should look at where the food came from to get to the 1800s just as much.
See, look, I stuck to my age. Now, so but if you want to go to your age, I'm sure it'll be exciting to listen to what happened 11,000 years ago in this, I don't know if you can call it in this country or in the subcontinent.
Both. This is a fact about India, that India's culinary traditions are enormous. They go back thousands of years. What we eat, why we eat, where it came from. I mean, if you look at today's diet, for example, we've basically ripped off the Mexicans.
Because of the spice and chili and all
So
that.
basically the Colombian exchange, named after Christopher Columbus and not Colombia the country, like everybody thinks, is basically about bringing food from Mesoamerica and South America to the old world.
Okay.
And when we look at our food today, and we see Indians taking so easily to Mexican food, it's very simple, right? They've got chapatis, we've got chapatis. Theirs are made out of maize, ours are made out of other flours.
Correct.
Potatoes came from there, tomatoes came from there, chilies came from there, beans came from there.
Yeah.
Most of our squashes came from there. So we've just appropriated Mexican cuisine,
And done our own thing to it.
done our own thing with it, and then we get upset when other people appropriate what we've appropriated.
Okay. But just wait a minute, before we get into, because these influences are later on between the 1800s
Yes.
and all, okay? You started with 11,000 years ago.
Okay.
And if we look at the country the way it is today, the way we bifurcate it in two simple ways, we have the rice eating belt and the wheat eating belt. So you've got north, which is supposedly chapati, roti, maida, and then you've got your whole, after the Vindhyas, you've got rice eating. Was it always like that?
No. So the north was essentially wheat and barley eating.
Okay.
There was an enormous amount of barley, perhaps equal to the amount of wheat that was eaten. In fact, if you read the Rig Veda and other texts like that, you will get so many references to barley. barley cakes with honey, that this is the ultimate food that you can offer to the gods, etc., etc. You look at the Harappan archaeological excavation records, you'll find tons of barley along with wheat. We'll also find sometimes a little rice. We'll find some of what we call the lesser grains, which is a really bad word for millets. But we do find some millets also, depending on where they are. And, this huge dependence on barley, which suddenly seems to disappear. When we look at us today and we say barley and we look at each other and say, what are you talking about? 250 years ago, if you went to the Punjab, there was no makai di roti with your sarson da saag. There was jaw di roti. And jaw is not jowar, but barley. So barley was what Rajasthan, Haryana, huge parts of the Punjab cultivated.
So what do we call barley today?
In Hindi, it's called jaw.
Jaw. It's still called jaw.
It's still called jaw.
Okay.
What was very interesting was that the British introduced corn. Farmers realized that you got more corn per acre than you got barley. So to them it was a no-brainer. If you had 1 hectare and you got 2 tons of barley and you got 3 tons of corn, you were going to put in corn.
Yeah.
And just because with the same amount of mehnat, you got larger yields. Corn was a new crop, so there weren't really very many pests that were interested in corn at that time. So yields were really bumper. What they didn't realize was corn is probably the worst grain that you can eat.
Yes, now we know that.
Basically, it's not the fault of the corn growers. They had nothing else, right? So in South America and Mesoamerica, they had nothing else to domesticate. Corn has less than 4% protein. It's so protein deficient, it's not funny. And of course, if you're looking at quinoa and stuff like that, that's off the charts.
High.
So our millets have all of that, and we've just forgotten to eat them.
Correct.
And we ate a lot of millets. There were a lot of backup crops for us. It was the ultimate stepney. It doesn't rain enough. You put in your grains once, twice, it's not coming. You put in millet. So you always grow a little millet as backup and eat it. And you got enough millet to make sure that you'll get through the year as a farmer if the rains fail you. This was something that we did a lot of. Forget about the 1800s. 1960, more than 40% of the grain that we ate in India was millets. Close to 60% in some areas.
Still so recent.
Yeah. Less than 100 years ago. And when we came up with this amazing green revolution that we did, which by the way saved us. Okay, I hear people dissing the green revolution all the time. Norman Borlaug was a crazy plant scientist, and
So since you brought it up, just quickly explain the Green Revolution then.
So basically, Norman Borlaug was a communist and a plant scientist, and he figured out how to increase yields per acre, okay, by tinkering with plants, and he ushered in something called the Green Revolution into Mexico and then India, and he gave it all away free. Because as a communist, he believed that this was what had to be done for the people, and that's that kind of thing. So along with M.S. Swaminathan and a huge team of people in India, they ushered in the Green Revolution at a time when we were desperate. We were begging for food from abroad. The Americans sent us wheat, which was condemned for human consumption and meant for animal consumption. We were so desperate that we said we'll take that also. Norman Borlaug and M.S. Swaminathan and their team made sure that we tinkered with our wheat and our rice enough to give our people hybrid varieties of seeds with higher and higher yields, and they saved the Indian nation from complete and total meltdown as far as food was concerned. What happened was, thanks to this huge amount of wheat and rice that was hybridized and available, we wanted our farmers to grow this. Now, why would the farmers grow this? Unki kya bhalai thi isme? So, what we did was we created something called MSP, minimum support price, saying that we will guarantee that the state will buy your rice and your wheat
at minimum this much.
At minimum this much price, you grow it. What's amazing is, the kind of cause and effect that you have. Every year we have people screaming bloody murder about those Punjabi and Haryanvi farmers burning stubble, and Delhi gets swamped with smog, right? It's because of the Green Revolution. And it's because of MSP. So, because of MSP, people who did not grow rice started growing rice. Now, to put in their wheat, they need to get rid of their stubble. Most people who grow rice and then their fields lie fallow. So, getting rid of stubble by just plowing them 8 months later, 6 months later is cool.
So, they set it to fire.
You can't do it back to back. And to do it back to back takes an enormous amount of labor. So, you just set it on fire. So, this MSP was only for rice and wheat. Everybody took to growing rice and wheat like mad. and people stopped growing millets because there was no MSP. By the time MSP came around a few years ago, we destroyed the entire balance of food growing that we had. You know, the first thing that we did with grain 14,000 years ago that we know of was make beer. So every chapati is a glass of beer that lost out on its destiny.
Okay.
We have evidence of this, interestingly. Now, the fun part is we started making bread out of this because that's the easiest thing to eat. You either boil it into a porridge or you break it up as much as you can, you pound it and you turn it into a dough. You let it ferment so it's easier to digest, not for any other reason. And then you roll it out on a flat piece of stone on a fireplace and you make flatbreads. What is our diet? Our diet is cereal, cereal, cereal and more cereal. Just think of the basic diet in India. It doesn't matter whether it's rice or it's wheat. All our meals are structured around a basic cereal. Everything else is just to make the cereal go down a little easier.
Let's just look at our area. Our area, as in, if you're talking 1800s, then we're talking of the whole subcontinent.
Yeah.
If you were to divide it into eating zones, what would various parts of the country be eating?
So eating zones get very, very interesting. You basically divide them on the basis of their staple cereal,
Okay.
their staple fat, their staple souring agent,
Okay.
and their spices.
Okay.
So the spices actually come far down the line. The biggest thing, of course, is whatever the staple grain is. So for a lot of areas from, the Northwest Frontier province across downwards, it's all wheat.
Okay.
But there was, as I said at that time, a decent amount of barley.
Okay. Barley.
A lot of barley in it.
Barley.
When you came across into India, surprisingly, this is something that blows everybody's minds even today, that the state that produces the most bajra in India today is Haryana, followed by Rajasthan, and not Gujarat, which keeps talking about the bajra no rotlo. You know, as you move into the Ganga plains, there's a lot of millet, along again with wheat and barley. The millet decreases or changes as you move across India and you move down.
Okay.
So jowar and bajra are actually very late millets. They all came from Africa. Okay.
But wait. We've talked a lot about grain. But what about vegetables and other fruit and that kind of stuff?
Most of the vegetables that we eat in India today are not Indian.
Okay. So then, so you will tell me where they came from.
Yeah.
But before that, say 1,000 years ago, what were the vegetables available in India, or did we only eat grain?
No. We ate a lot of bengan.
Okay. Bengan.
We ate quite a few leafy greens which we don't eat today. So, if you go to Bengal, for example, once a year the Bengalis have a festival where they make this dish called choddo shak, which is 14 green leafy vegetables cooked together. After I got married, my wife's a Bengali. And the first time I heard about this, I said, are there 14 green leafy vegetables? So they cheat a little bit. They include onion scapes and garlic scapes in green leafy vegetables. But they still have some 10 or 12 proper green leafy vegetables. And when I started looking at them in Maharashtra, for example, I realized that most of them are there. And they're eaten. So, things like ambat sukha. How many times do you hear about them today? So we are losing out on this food heritage of ours, especially the endemic food heritage of ours, at a fantastic pace. The autochthonous plants are just not being eaten or grown. So, so many of our root vegetables we've stopped eating. Ube has this long, torturous journey of coming from New Guinea to India sometime around 4,000-5,000 years ago. Okay? But ube is still relatively Indian. Sweet potatoes are not. Potatoes are not. Sweet potatoes came from the east. Potatoes came from the west.
No. From the east, you mean from Southeast Asia?
Yeah, but from America via Southeast Asia, because the Spaniards brought them to the Philippines, and then they percolated that away to India.
Okay.
So, even our sweet potato is not really Indian. Neither is our potato, but suran is Indian.
Suran is Indian?
Suran is very, very Indian.
Okay.
But how many times do we eat suran compared to eating potato?
True.
And you can do all the same things to suran almost that you can do to potato. But we don't. So many of these things, little things. So, do you know there's a Jain potato?
Which grows above the ground?
Yes. Okay, so this basically is what we call Dioscorea species. Is this massive star-shaped root that grows underground, and it sends out creepers, and the creepers have bulbils on them. And you can eat these bulbils. We call them karanda. in Marathi.
Ah,
The big
karanda.
brown guys.
Yeah.
Basically, you steam them, peel them, and then you can use them just like potatoes. And they're Jain-friendly potatoes.
Listen, all my Jain friends over there, this is a potato that you can eat. So if we say in the 1800s, what were the staples? I know it's very difficult to go all India. Was it more exciting than the food is today? Or what would be there on a plate? Say, just take 4 regions of India, okay? North, south, east, west.
Okay.
To simplify it.
So,
I have a plate, my daily meal, what is on that plate in north?
so in the north, if you're having breakfast, it's paratha.
Okay.
Okay, if you're upper caste, if you're slightly lower caste, it's roti.
Okay.
If you're lucky, there is something to eat with your paratha. Otherwise, it's just paratha.
No dahi, achar.
So, like I said, if you're lucky, there is something to eat with it. Otherwise, there's nothing.
Okay.
Dahi means that you have to have a cow.
Yes.
Okay, because you're not going out to buy dahi. If you have cows, you have milk, you have dahi. All of that is par for the course. If you don't, tough. If you come to the west, there's a lot of poha. I mean, poha is all over the place during that period. Upma is not really such a big thing, but poha definitely is. So, poha is a very, very Maharashtrian thing, and it's basically rice. You're basically mainlining carbohydrate.
Yeah, it's flattened rice
Yeah.
eventually.
You go to the east, to Orissa, for example, and it's last night's rice.
Stale rice.
Yeah, so basically you make rice in the night, you eat a hot meal of rice before you go to sleep. Then you take the rest of your rice and you put it in a pot of water. Okay, you mix it up in a pot of water and you keep a lid on it. And you keep it next to the fireplace and it ferments. And the next day in the morning you have that with maybe a dried piece of salted fish. So you have small fish like a bangda. I mean, not a bangda actually, but like a bangda. And you roast it over the fire and you crush it over your
To give it
sticky
umami.
congee.
Yes. Yeah. So it's literally a congee with
It is
dry
a congee.
fish. Yeah.
I mean, the word congee comes from kanji, which is basically a Tamilian word. Okay, so you go down south, and your breakfast is usually idli, and more idli. If dosa is not something you eat for breakfast. Okay, and idli is interestingly the OG idli is 100% dal,
Not rice.
not rice. So the original idli is 100% urad dal. Your basically black gram which has been chill out. About 2000 years ago, the Brahmins really start making inroads into Tamil Nadu. And they're given grants, land grants, and spaces are opened up in the forests. And these are called Agrahara grants. We have lots of records of them. And they're in charge of the new settlement. They have to pay a certain amount of tax to the king. And this is in rice, in grain basically. And these guys are rice growers, rice eaters. They're growing rice and paying in rice. And this urad dal is expensive. So let's put in a little rice to make the urad dal go further.
Okay.
Then let's put in a little more rice. Then let's put in a little more rice. So in a typical Tambram home, it's either 3:1 or 4:1 today. But traditionally, it
It's
was
pure
100% urad dal. There are so many homes in Tamil Nadu where an idli is 100% rice today.
Yeah.
And the urad dal idli has stayed alive only thanks to ritual. Because ritually, in a ritual meal, you cook what your ancestors ate. So when you do shraddh for somebody, you cook shraddh food, which is from way back then. So traditional shraddh food amongst the Ayers, for example, which I know of, would have no chilies, no potatoes, no tomatoes. None
Because
of
we didn't have
because
those.
you didn't have all of that. The idlis there will be 100% urad dal idlis. And they're delicious. And they're very nutritious. Way more nutritious than rice idli. And I mean, I've got a personal bias against rice idli, so I'm sorry about that. It's very difficult to put that idli down by itself, especially if it's a cold idli.
But what you're saying actually is that large parts of the country, besides the north, who were eating wheat and parathas, the west was eating poha, which is already rice. The east, Odisha, is eating, again, rice of some form. But the south, which is renowned for its rice, was actually eating more urad dal, etc. And rice came in a little later on into the south.
So rice came in somewhere around 2,000, 2,500 years ago to the south. It wasn't an original southern Indian product.
South thing.
Yeah. And it gained popularity with these Agrahara grants and these large Brahmin villages that came up. And in the Chola period, about 1,000 years ago, we have beautiful records of this. Okay. Tons and tons of inscriptions. Champak Lakshmi has done some fabulous work in understanding this entire scenario. What was really bizarre was when archaeologists went into southern India and tried to understand what the first farmers ate. They were completely flummoxed. All the first farmers everywhere in the world, almost everywhere, grow some kind of grain or the other and learn to, increase their yield by using the hybridized grain, naturally hybridized grain for seed and eating the non-hybridized grain. So if you're getting more yield on some plants, you keep them to sow. And, you eat the ones with low yield so that you get more yield later and that kind of thing. These guys were first growing kulit. Kulit. Horse gram. The thing that they domesticated first was horse gram, and you can't get better at something that will last an entire year for you to eat. I mean, the protein levels are through the roof, the mineral levels are great, everything.
It tastes fabulous.
I don't understand what the problem with it is that people have. I think it's gorgeous.
I love horse gram. Chana. Black, white, any damn chana. I like chana.
Your kulit, your horse gram made into pitla is absolutely divine. This is what they started growing. We believe discontinued it because you can't keep it for too many years. You see, most grain you can keep for 2, even 3 years.
3 years.
You can't do that with kulit. When the population pressures increased, they had to switch to a cereal. Otherwise, the guys in Karnataka would have had the healthiest bloody diets going because everything they were eating was kulit. About 3,000 years ago, they moved into the Iron Age. I mean, there's a lot of controversy now about when they move in. And in Karnataka, we have these burials that we find called cyst burials or chist burials, which are basically because Karnataka has this lovely kadapa stone. So you make slabs, 4 slabs of stone to make a box and a 5th large slab on top. And you make this dolmen, dolmenoid cyst as it's called. And you bury somebody and you build this around him. You even sometimes put a hole in one side so you can put offerings every year and Pitru Paksha, whatever you want to call it. All of these guys are using everything identically. The tech is identical, the material culture is identical. But their food culture since then till today is different. So when you look at North Karnataka and South Karnataka and you realize that there's a bit of tashan between them. It goes back all the way to the Iron Age. In the Iron Age in North Karnataka, you get flat platters to eat out of. They're basically eating roti. Okay, either jowar roti or ragi roti. In the south, you get bowls because they're eating mudde.
Mudde, correct. Ragi mudde and all that.
So it is the roti versus mudde is the separation between North and South Karnataka. And it is fantastic because we can trace it back 3,000 years.
It's getting very, very deep right now. So I'm just trying to bring it to a slightly more sort of, how do we say, mouth-watering level. I'm going back to the original question, and you told me the breakfasts that you had and I'm waiting for you to start telling me that there was meat on the plate also. Because I've heard about the grain and the barley and the odd vegetable. But again, if you take north, south, east, west, what was there for lunch? What would a full meal be?
Let's start with Western India. Western India, a lunch would be rice bhakri and sukat.
Sukat, dried shrimp.
Dried shrimp or other dried fish would be cooked with spices and onions. You put that in a dabba, put a lot of, warm bhakris together in a cloth and take it with you to your fields or wherever you're working.
Would there be spices in that sukat? Or
so there would be spices in the sukat, but they wouldn't be so much spice as we have today. So chilies had already proliferated by 1800.
By 1800?
Yeah. So chilies are very fast hybridizing plants.
And when you say...
So you got sukat bhakri for lunch here.
Yeah.
You go across to the west to Bengal. Lunch is invariably machar jhol bhat.
Okay.
And that is almost across all castes, communities, whatever. There is a simple fish curry and there is rice. And as you get more affluent, you get more dishes added to it. A very, very proper Calcutta Bhadralok meal, even back then, would have been a very Ayurvedic meal. I mean, for lack of any other word to use. There would have been something sour, something sweet, something spicy, something astringent, something bitter. The Western world has 4 tastes. We've added umami recently.
Yeah.
India has been into 6 tastes for a very long time.
Astringent was always there. Turat.
Absolutely.
Yes, correct.
As you come to the end of the 1800s, as you go through, in the West, they're eating more and more and more poppy seed.
Khaskhas.
And this is because they're...
In what form? In
paste.
In paste.
Bata.
Okay, just to thicken gravies.
No, it's basically out of desperation. Today, khaskhas is 2,200 rupees a kilo. Okay, and you desperately want to eat it. At that time, you were eating it out of desperation. So farmers were being forced to grow poppy so that the British could collect opium and then take that opium to China. You see, the British wanted Chinese tea.
Okay.
The Chinese did not want British products.
Correct.
They thought the British products were inferior.
Yeah.
So all they wanted was silver. And the British realized that this was going to screw their economy to hell and back. Then they found out the Chinese wanted opium illegally.
Under the table.
Yeah, so we started shipping opium out of India, but only for silver. And then taking that silver and giving it back to them for tea. Ultimately, we stole tea from them. And we didn't stop selling them opium. So yeah, it was a very cruel thing that we did. But it was the farmers in Bengal and Bihar that were growing them and didn't know what to eat because they were not growing food to eat. They were growing this stuff and it was going to the British.
I'm going to move a little ahead, and I'm bringing in the railways. And the railways created an impact in this country, joining everyone, going to places that you could not go. Obviously, the railways were created by the British to transport their own stuff.
Their troops.
Their troops.
Mainly their troops.
But it must have impacted the way we eat.
Hugely.
Okay.
The railways and the posts kind of lockstep together. You know, the railways carried the post was carried by the railways, and you actually have an entire mail gadi. The mail, the frontier mail, the this mail, the that mail, those were trains that carried the mail. And the mail went to various places where the dak was distributed. And the dak banglas had their own khansamas.
And their own cuisine and whatever else.
Their own cuisine, etc. So the trains created an enormous amount of food that was completely non-Indian. So the Deccan Queen created what was called the omelette and the cutlet.
I love it.
Oh,
I don't know if it's still there, but
yes, still there, very much. In that same little car, that pantry car, which only the Deccan Queen has, the omelette and the cutlet, and they created things like tomato soup.
Yes.
Yeah, which were basically corn flour with
ketchup in it.
Yes, ketchup in it.
I don't know what.
And salt. Yes, completely.
Yeah.
So cooking in those little galleys was not fun.
Yeah.
They ended up creating their own kind of cuisine, and they started picking up food. Very, very weird industries were impacted by the rails. One of the industries that was impacted was ice making. So you would think this was because we needed ice to carry goods that were perishable. Yes, but the sahib log in the summer would have a kind of something that looked like a bathtub in the middle of the first class. And from station to station, ice would be put in it. So that the fans kept the entire inside cool and moist.
Cool and moist, yeah.
Okay, so ice had to be brought so the sahib logs were kept cool. And ice had to be brought so that produce could go across the country. India would not have had Amul Butter had it not been for the railways and ice. Amul Butter was started in competition to a guy called Polson. Dalal. Who, by the way, lived around the corner from me and was no relative of mine.
Okay.
In VT. And Polson.
So Polson wasn't a foreign brand.
No, it was a very Indian brand.
Indian brand made by a Parsi gentleman.
Yeah, called Dalal.
Okay.
And Dalal got the contract for supplying coffee to the British Army. And that was his thing. And then they asked him whether he could do butter. So he said, yeah, but then they'd have to guarantee that he'd get cream. So he got a monopoly on cream. The cream was sent in large milk cans, heavily salted, okay, and with a large slab of ice sticking into it. So it was kept cool. You didn't have to worry about milk and fat. Fat and water would be separated very easily. Okay, couldn't separate the salt. And without meaning to, the cream would ferment on the way. So this fermented cream was what Dalal turned into a Normandy-style butter. Very heavily salted, and therefore it was very good for preserving it when it went back to the British Army. Okay, and that was the taste of commercial butter as far as India was concerned. And then when Amul decided to break him down and Tribhuvan Patel said, this is terrible, this monopoly, we must break this British monopoly. He got that poor man Kurian to make butter, who made butter using Swiss technique. And nobody wanted to buy his butter. They said, your color is wrong, your taste is wrong, there isn't enough salt in it, this is rubbish butter. And he was like, this is damn good butter. This is world-class butter. And they were like, chichak. So he made people grow annatto so that he could put yellow color in it. Because, the fermented butter, the fermented cream was already yellowing. Yeah. He added chemicals to it to give it that slightly umami.
For the taste.
For the taste. And he added more salt than necessary because that was what the Indians were used to.
Yeah, even till today, I can't eat unsalted butter because we're just used to this salty butter taste.
So this is the butter of India. The man who made it was Dalal. And everybody's forgotten him. Only at Amul's university at Anand is there a bust of Dalal in the library today.
Is there?
Yeah.
We discussed breakfast, lunch, but
We haven't even looked at other lunches in South.
Yeah, so South.
So South India is what we call first rice, second rice, curd rice.
First rice, second rice, curd rice.
So the first rice is eaten with rasam, the second rice is eaten with sambar, and then there is curd rice to finish. South of India, milk intake is essentially either curd or buttermilk. And this is because it's easier to digest. Because we are meant to be lactose intolerant, we're not meant to be lactose tolerant. All mammals have a switch. When mummy stops feeding you her milk, switch goes off. We farmers all over the world learned how to keep it on. It's still difficult, your mother might have told you to have a glass of milk every morning, but when you got an upset stomach, she won't give you milk. Because she knows it's difficult
to digest.
Right? More, as they call it, basically. It can be real buttermilk coming out of the churning of butter, or it can be, curd whipped up together. So that was something that was eaten with meals, and it was a very healthy thing. Vegetable was an option.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, because we again talked about grain.
Vegetables were an option.
Dal, which is a grain.
Yes.
What about vegetables and meat?
Vegetables were an option. So sambar usually had the vegetables in it.
Okay, so it is cooked with the dal.
Yeah. And there may be what is called a curry in South India, which is a dry preparation of vegetables. But if you look at most of the curries today, carrot curry, beans curry, these are all things that have come later.
Later means how many years?
Later means anywhere from about 1750 to 1950.
1752. So we're within our 1800.
Yeah, so things are coming
years.
in. Things are coming in.
Okay.
But vegetables are still eaten few and far between, and the easiest thing is to throw them into the bloody dal and cook them together.
So basically what we're saying is, because we are not used to eating vegetables, we don't know how to make vegetables really.
No, we
yet.
don't. We don't.
Except to add them into things.
We cook them to death.
We cook them. We still do that.
If you're a Parsi, you pressure cook your dudhi.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know, it's brown colored sludge. But it's very difficult for you to eat the other stuff. You think it's raw.
Yeah. So now lunch in the north.
So lunch in the north would usually be roti. This roti could be of various kinds. And depending on what you call the north. So when you get to Rajasthan, for example, you'd eat something called raab, which is neither roti nor chapati, nothing of the sort. Raab basically is coarsely crushed grain. It would be barley, which is then boiled with curd.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So you make a porridge, you eat this for breakfast, or you just boil it with milk and eat it for breakfast. Then you put in a dabba and you take the same thing with you for lunch.
Okay.
So you eat it in the morning for breakfast, it's called garam raab. And at lunchtime, it's called thandi raab.
Okay, because it's just
cold.
gone cold.
Now, thandi raab tends to be filled only about 2/3 in the box. Because by the time you open the box, it's all the way to the top.
It rises.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're not used to eating raab, you don't want to be there when they open those dabbas.
Stinky as hell.
Yeah. Beautifully fermented, semi-digesting itself. So it's so much easier to digest, and it's mainlining carbs. And today it's all makkah. So it's 100% mainlining carbs. Okay? So imagine, it's the same thing for breakfast and the same thing for lunch, just hot and cold.
Hot and cold. No vegetables again?
No, not a single vegetable is harmed in this.
Okay.
If you're very lucky, there might be an onion with it. Okay? Like you got enough onions to spare, you bring an onion along with you. Then you go into North India.
Punjab,
where you have jawdi roti with dal. And this whole thing about maa ki dal. And we go on and on about it, and we wax eloquent about it. And it cooks for 12 hours. It's basically a pot of dal and water put on the stove in the night and forgotten. And it keeps boiling all the way to lunch or maybe dinner the next day. It is about convenience.
Yeah.
It is about poor ma being overworked at home all the time. Remember, it's all in your head. So if you're told that this is the yum stuff, you believe it's the yum stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go a little further north. Suppose you go to into the Himalaya areas.
So you go to the Himalayas, you're in the middle of the 1800s. And we start seeing this very interesting new lunch. Rice and rajma.
It comes from there?
No.
Oh.
It comes from France.
It comes from France.
But it originally comes from?
Rice and rajma comes from France.
Let's say rice and rajma comes due to France.
Comes because of France. Okay.
Because the French went to Mexico.
Got beans from there.
No. To prop up the brother of the Austrian king as the emperor of Mexico. And they got their posteriors beaten, since we are, being polite, and whipped, and they came back. Now an army marches on its stomach, blah, 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 blah. and you need to carry your food with you, right? So what are you going to carry with you in Mesoamerica? Beans. So the army lived on beans, and the army came back with beans. And then the army planted those beans. So the famous, very French, poncy white bean soup, the cassoulet, is basically from Mexico.
Is from Mexico.
And is rajma. It's just white rajma.
So, rajma was brought by the French to France from Mexico and then to India
Because the French were in Pondicherry.
because of French.
And they had Indians with them.
You've completely confused me. So, you're saying that rajma came into India from the south
Yes.
and then became famous in the north?
In the north. Why?
I don't know.
Because rajma was growing in Mexico, a high altitude place, and doing well. And so did this variant when it went to high altitudes. And it had no local pests. So the dal that was eaten in Uttaranchal, for example, was moat. Moat was the dal that was eaten. And today moat is like we also eat moat. Because rajma. Again, because per acre you get more rajma than you get moat. Why will you grow moat?
It's getting more and more interesting, this conversation. I wanted to ask you about meals. We've talked about breakfast, lunch, north, south, east, west, generally. But today we do 3 meals. So we've got a breakfast, we've got a lunch, we've got dinner. Some people say that this 3-meal system has been borrowed, and that's not how we ate back in the day. Is that true?
Yes and no. It depends on where you are and when you are. So we often ate 3 meals a day. We ate a hot meal in the morning. We took a cold meal with us to our
work.
fields to work. And we came back and ate a hot meal in the night. We normally, in most places, ate rice as rice in the night because you ate your rice and passed out. You didn't need to work after that. You otherwise ate your rice as a bhakri or, as a porridge or something like that during the day, usually as a bhakri. Let me give you an example. 35 years ago, about 120 kilometers south of where we are sitting in Bombay, I was excavating at a place called Chandor. And I was talking to the sarpanch of the village, and he was recounting his childhood in the 1960s. This was a typical meal program for the day. You woke up in the morning, you had a glass of hot milk with nachni bhakri.
Correct.
Hot off the stove, dip into the milk, eat your bhakri, that's it. There is no ghee on it, there is nothing on it. Okay? For lunch, there would be rice bhakris and there would be sukat, dried prawns, which would be cooked with onions and spices and taken with you. Or if you were lucky and your wife loved you very much, she'll bring it to you in the field if you were close by.
Which you see in the cinemas only.
Yeah, but it's mainly in the cinemas. You took your own dabba with you most of the time.
Okay.
You came back home and in the night you ate rice. And the way you have sukat, which is basically prawns of various kinds, you also have a sukat which is a mixed sukat. It's got everything in it. It's got some little different fish in it. It's got sometimes some dried crabs in it, 4 kinds of prawns in it. All of it. It's the cheapest dried fish
Do you
that
still
you can buy.
get it?
Yeah,
This
you still get
mixed
it.
dried fish?
You still get it all over the coast. Okay, it doesn't come to cities any longer. And that is what you bought, and that is what you boiled into a curry. You boiled the hell out of it with potatoes. So potatoes were the luxury. So a few potatoes would be cooked skin on in tiny cubes. Tiny because they'd cook faster. And this soupy curry would be served with rice for dinner. 360 days of the year you ate this.
Same thing.
In your backyard, you had invariably a creeper of pumpkin growing onto your backyard roof. When that pumpkin was ready, you ate pumpkin for breakfast, lunch and dinner every day till the pumpkin got over. Common sense made you cut the pumpkin into half and give it to your neighbor.
Because you could not consume the whole thing yourself.
Because it will die, right? The
Yeah,
pumpkin
yeah,
once you cut
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And you got only that much window, no refrigeration.
Yeah.
Remember this, very important.
Yeah.
No refrigeration. So you're going to basically
Ruin it. I mean,
waste it. So you make everything out of pumpkin at that time. You put pumpkin into your chapati, you put pumpkin into your curry, you put pumpkin into your dry fish. You pumpkin the hell out of pumpkin. Then pumpkin is over. When your neighbor has a pumpkin, he shares half with you.
Correct.
You invariably have a small taindli creeper in your backyard. And I've actually seen this, You have a taindli creeper in your backyard. When 20 taindli are ready, you pluck them. So there'll be about 3 or 4 taindli which are a little bit too green and 3 or 4 of them which are a little red on the inside, which are too ripe. Doesn't matter. You chop it all up, you make a sabji and everybody gets 1 spoonful of it. And I mean spoon, dining spoon. That's it. Finish. And that's the vegetable. If you want to eat vegetable in a village, you have to grow your own vegetables. Are you going to focus on growing your own grain or are you going to focus on vegetables?
Great, because that's your livelihood.
So vegetables are grown on the margins. Vegetables are grown in backyards. Once in a while, you have somebody who grows vegetables for the sake of vegetables. So this village had one lady who was a widow lady, and she farmed a plot behind a house where she grew green leafy vegetables. An entire variety of them. And when they were ready, she'd go through the village with a basket, and the villagers would very, very happily buy green leafy vegetables from her. This was because of deep monetization now and the availability of cash. In the good old days, everything was barter. So buying vegetables was unheard of. You either grew your own vegetables and ate them, or your neighbor had too much of something and gave it to you, and therefore you ate it, and it's it and that's that. Or,
Okay, let me just ask you this, because you brought up money. All the food that we've discussed right up to now seems to be simple, wholesome, no, nonetheless. Were there rich people and poor people
Yes.
and the food in,
Yes.
and we're talking like centuries ago, okay, where there were wealthier people who had a better diet or a better variety of
Yes.
food,
Yes.
then because whatever we've discussed up till now is basic, very basic grain, dal, foraging, etc., etc.
okay, so
And when did meat come into a regular diet?
so better and healthier are very shaky platforms.
Okay, forget healthier, just
Okay,
tastier.
let me get to this. So let's go to South India, for example. You have all these Brahmins running Agrahara villages, but they are Brahmins. They will eat only 100% sattvic vegetarian food. So, Chinnavengam sambar, my favorite sambar, made out of those baby pearl onions, is something that most Brahmins would have been shocked at.
Because there's onion in it.
1800 or 1850, no Brahmin would have made Chinnavengam sambar. It was impossible. There were onions. I mean, onions in our food, onions in our house was impossible. So, onions, garlic didn't enter Brahmin houses. So, the Brahmins ate a pretty good menu of vegetables, dal, rice, but that was it. See, spices are incidental. Spices are not really going to be giving you minerals and things like that. They're about taste, right? On the other hand, you have the people working in your fields. They are putting in blood, sweat, and tears. What are they going to be eating? So, more often than not, the lower castes eat meat because their diet requires it. And they will eat everything.
But tell me one thing. So we have actually categorized vegetarians and non-vegetarians into Brahmins or rather into rich and poor.
Yes.
But there must have been rich people eating non-veg food.
Yes. For example, all over the East, rich people ate the best fish.
Correct.
They ate the best prawns.
Yes.
Nobody ate chicken, by the way. Huh?
Nobody ate
Chicken was eaten by Rajputs. Everybody else looked down their noses at them for that. Rajputs were very happy.
My grandmother used to look down upon
Yeah.
chicken.
Excuse me, when chicken started being cooked in the 1850s, 1880s in Bengal, there was a separate stove made outside the house. Because the men of the house wanted to eat this bloody chicken, but you had to cook it outside the house.
Mutton was great,
Mutton was...
but no chicken.
See, in those days, apart from Maharashtra, chickens weren't offered to the gods. Now, Maharashtrians love eating chickens because they regularly slaughter them to the gods. In fact, there is a equivalency. One goat is equal to 8 chickens.
There is there.
So, if you can't afford to do a goat in Bali, you do 8 chickens.
8 chickens.
Of course, now it's officially illegal. Now, when the meat goes home in Maharashtra again, there are only 2 ways it's cooked, irrespective of the community. There is sukka and rasa. So all the bones are flensed off the meat, and this pure meat is cooked slowly as sukka. You boil the hell out of the bones to get every last bit of protein out of them. This is called rasa. You will serve this with bhakri or vade for the sukka and rice for the rasa.
Rasa.
It's it, that's that. This is also the main meat meal which you will distribute before a wedding. So the night before, you do bokad. So basically, you
Bokad
give
is
a
goat.
bali,
Huh.
sheep or goat, depending on, again, there are communities which won't eat sheep, won't eat goat. So 2 or 3 animals are slaughtered, and it is basically eat as much protein as you can. So people will be coming and piling in, dabawing. Depending on how well off you are, the sukka might be limited to 2 servings. But the rasa will definitely be unlimited. So you can really
Eat
pick
your
out.
rice and rasa.
So this is where you get your massive protein intake happening. So the more of these weddings, etc. that happen, the more protein you get to eat. When do weddings happen in Maharashtra?
I'm not sure.
Usually in April and May.
Okay.
So you're getting your protein in April and May. And then you suddenly realize that immediately after that, in the middle of May, is when you're going to be doing your hardest labor. So it makes sense to eat all that protein and put on some muscle mass before you go out in the
hard and
fields and
work
you
out
break your back plowing your fields and planting your crops. So there is a method in the madness.
There is all, yeah, okay.
There is a method in the madness.
Okay, so I've been trying to get to the subject of non-veg food the longest time, but there's another subject which is my favorite. You know, we've talked about our basic 3 meals, but we do a lot of in-between meals. You know, all the snacks and all the snakes, and all the cheddar stores and all the avareyas, the wafers and the chudas and. When did that become a thing? Like, you know, literally, because this is not grain as we know it. This is not chawal. This is not dal. This is not. This is snacky food.
So there are 2 stories about the origins of snacks.
Okay.
One is about the origin of chaat. Okay. Now, please note, these are stories.
Okay.
So the story goes that Mr. Shah Jahan, the Shah Jahan, 25% of the world's GDP Shah Jahan, that guy, decided to create a new city to rule from. And he created Shah Jahanabad on the banks of the Yamuna. And he had it marked out and said, okay, acquire the villages, throw everybody away and start building the thing. So all the Unani experts in North India went running to him and said, boss, what is wrong with you? You're going to be putting this big fat city on the Yamuna. So he said, yeah, what's wrong with that? So Yamuna water is crap. And he said, too bad. This is as good as it gets. This is the city and it's going to be here. Now find a solution for the water problem. According to legend, the Unani people said you have to eat fried salty food to combat the alkaline nature of the river. And therefore chaat came about.
Was invented.
Yes. Now it's a lovely story taken with a lot of salt
chaat
and
masala.
pepper. Yes. Absolutely. Most of our chaat and our farsan comes from Gujarat and that area. It's actually not a very, very recent phenomena, but the volume is very recent. So Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, everywhere there are chiudas and things like that. But these are made seasonally. You know, we make Diwali farar.
Correct.
Seasonally, they're made for specific events and they're meant to be celebratory in nature. The main reason for this is that most of these things are fried or they have sugar in them. Both of which were horrendously expensive. So India might have given the world sugar, but that didn't mean it was like coming out of our ears. Sugar was still a very expensive product. Sugar was not something that you used regularly. Sweetmeats were not consumed very often. So laddu were mainly made either for Diwali or for weddings.
Correct.
Desserts at home would be bananas mashed into milk.
Shikran.
And why? Because the banana is sweet, it's got overripe, put it into milk so that it will be consumed. Everybody likes something sweet, right? The other problem was fried. Fried meant oil. Now, in India, from 4,000 years ago till about 100, 125 years ago, oil was not easily available in bulk. You had to grow your own oil seed. So in Maharashtra, for example, we would grow black til, sesame. Okay? And you took your sesame to the oil presser in your village as and when you required oil. And it was a very expensive commodity because you had to put aside that much land from growing grain to grow sesame. So you had only a limited amount of sesame and therefore only a limited amount of oil. You know, today we casually fry our tomatoes and onions and whatnot before we cook anything. We didn't do that.
No tadkas, you mean?
So tadka, why tadka at the end? Tadka at the end because you want to use minimum amount
of oil.
Not cooked in oil. So cooking in oil and then giving a tadka is basically defeating the purpose. Never mind that. Everybody should cook as they want to. I'm talking again about Maharashtra and Western India mainly. Every house would have a kadai, a really mean looking iron kadai that looked black. This was the onion burning kadai. So you chopped up your onions and then you dry roasted them till they started getting charred. Then you emptied them into another vessel, added a little bit of oil and cooked with it. So this frying of onions was only very rich people did it. You had to be really up the ladder, like top 1 or 2% to cook and eat like that. That's why Indian traditions of food, Indian recipes are all royal recipes. Because those are the guys who could afford to cook like this.
Correct. All the nawabs and the deep fried
nawabs and kebabs.
Nawabs and kebabs and all that.
So all the ghee being poured. So ghee was something that was, I don't know if you've seen a traditional Maharashtrian ghee vessel.
Yeah, it's like this with a wooden lid,
And it's got a little spout to it.
Yes.
Tiny spout to it. And it's normally kept next to the chula. so that it stays
Warm
liquid.
and liquid, yeah.
And its little dribbles are poured out of it. You don't take a spoon and whap it into it like we do today, because you have to have your own cows. You have to churn the bloody milk. You have to turn into butter. You have to then clarify the butter.
And only so much comes out
yeah.
of one cow.
So out of 1 liter of milk, what do you get? Do you even get 100 grams? You don't even get 100 grams of ghee. It was a very expensive thing.
And since we're talking stories and we're talking history and you're so good at it, there is a story that I heard long ago, back when we were in school, about how rotis or chapatis or rotis as we know it became a way of spreading information during India's first war for independence in 1857.
So
is
legend,
there any truth to the story?
Legend and pure legend is that messages were burnt into chapatis.
Okay. Oh.
And these chapatis were smuggled across through the lines so that the rank and file knew what was to be done. And the poor British were so stupid that they weren't searching people's chapatis. So, you'd search you for a message, they wouldn't search your chapatis, would they?
True.
It's true. Yeah. So it's possible that it could have been done. There are 2-3 variants on this story. One is that it was just the symbol that the chapati would be sent to you would be enough. That is a very easy to follow thing. The other, the chapatis would have marks on them. One is that chapatis would have entire messages on them. Like, so somebody was actually burning poetry in chapatis.
How is that possible? I mean, unless you have a stencil, how are you going to do that?
So it's not really going to happen.
Okay, so this is an exciting conversation, and I'm going to come to that one question which is very, very controversial today, which is what percentage of India were vegetarian and what percent were non-vegetarian then, and what about today?
So Indians have always been non-vegetarian.
Okay.
Today there are fewer non-vegetarians in India than 200 years ago.
Then 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today we are 71% non-vegetarians as per the government's data. Okay.
70%. Okay.
71%. Just about 70 years ago we used to be about 80% vegetarian.
Okay.
79 point something percent. So yes, there has been a decrease in meat eating, or at least people saying that they eat meat. But the problem in India is not that. It's how much meat do you eat. So the amount of protein eaten is really low in India. So across the board, unless you're living on the coast, like I keep repeating, and you're a fish eater, you are not getting the protein and the minerals you should get from meat.
Okay.
See, all of us need B vitamins to live, to survive. And there is no vegetarian source of B12. And other vitamins also, the vegetarian sources are minuscule. Then you come to vitamin D. And there's this stupid thing that taught you in school that you get vitamin D from sunlight.
Standing in the sun.
You don't get from standing in the sun. Standing in the sun allows your skin to process things into vitamin D. You got to have it in you. It's not going to come in through the sun. You're not some bloody solar absorber or something like that. So vitamin D again is very, very difficult to find in vegetable products. So I was joking with a close colleague of mine, and he said, for a vegan to get their vitamin D intake from a purely vegan source, they'd have to eat 5 kilos of button mushrooms a day. A day.
My God.
And that if you were willing to go through a little stress and put button mushrooms out on the sun for 3 days, you know what happens to button mushrooms in the sun over 3 days?
They'll become...
Then just 2.5 kilos per day are enough.
Okay.
Like you can eat that.
Because all the water content, they've shriveled up.
No, and because things happen to those mushrooms in the sun. So the fun part being that you can't get all of this from a purely vegetarian diet. Indians are low hemoglobin, low vitamin D, low vitamin B. Every time an Indian goes for a blood test, doctor says, vitamin D supplement. B complex level. Why? Because we fall woefully short of the norms. Indian women are so chronically low hemoglobin, it's not funny.
Okay, habits that we had in the 1800s, 1,000 years ago in this country, which you think should come back in terms of dietary habits?
We definitely need to eat more red meat. That is, not everybody doesn't need to eat red meat. Please understand this. I'm not saying everybody should get up in the morning and get a steak or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying everybody needs to eat more protein than they're eating just now. And if they're not eating red meat, at least eggs. See, understand this, that milk is more non-vegetarian than eggs are. Unfertilized eggs are half a cell. They're not even a complete cell. Okay? They have no life. They have no potential of life once they're laid.
Correct.
Okay? Eating eggs gives you the maximum amount of protein in the minimum amount of space at a very good price point. Plus, it gives you a whole load of other vitamins, minerals, and stuff like that. It's not just the protein. And doctors are now quietly learning to shut their mouths about eat the white and not the yolk.
Yeah.
Because they realize the yolk has most of the minerals in it.
Everything is in the yolk.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just getting the protein part of it and nothing else.
Not even the taste.
Zero taste. As a Parsi, we can tell you that we've been eating eggs forever and nothing ever happened to us that would kill us, right? Parsis are some of the longest lived people in India.
True.
So those eggs is definitely working for us.
Yeah.
To get back to it, we need to make sure that people eat more eggs, eat more protein, eat better diets. I'm all for eat and let eat. I really believe that. Eat and let eat.
But did we do that? Did we have a very balanced protein, carb, vegetable, mineral diet 1,000 years ago?
So we had a better diet in many places, not everywhere. So the poorest of the poor are always at the short end of the stick. So for them, their protein comes from animal protein and nowhere else. If you take away their source of animal protein, you are destroying them.
Yeah.
Upper castes had better diets always because they had primary access to all the products. But you look at different parts of India and you notice that there were strategies in place. So if you go to the east, for example, you'll find ponds. Every village has a large pond and people live around the pond. And things grow in the pond and at the edges of the pond. And this entire pond is an ecosystem which provides continuously for the village. The village washes its bartans in the prawns, its baby's bums in the prawns. So, basa, for example, was a fish which was grown in ponds in Vietnam so that those ponds would be kept clean of unmentionable matter that human beings would put into it.
Correct.
We'd eat it. So it's like so many parts of China and India had something called a pig toilet.
Oh, I remember in Matharan.
Yeah.
When we were young. Pig toilet.
So, very few people would believe that Mathiran had pig toilets. But Mathiran was incredibly clean because it did. Goa, parts of northern Karnataka, all had pig toilets. You had a pen with a few pigs in it. You had an elevated toilet on the edge. You walked in, did your thing into space. The pig ate everything and you ate the pig.
True.
Yeah, so it was an incredibly eco-friendly way of doing things and not polluting the environment, blah, 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 blah. Right? So we've stopped all of that.
Okay, this whole thing about health and wellness is so now prominent in India. And this rise in you need to eat home-cooked meals. Now dietitians are saying millet, go back to millet. Is this a late awakening or is it still a good time to do this?
Okay, so a lot of it is rubbish.
Okay.
Some of it is very pertinent.
I just love it, but it's rubbish.
It is. So you really think somebody who has spent 50 years living on rice will suddenly switch to millets and become healthy? Rubbish, he'll die. In the sense that it'll do terrible things to his intestines. Millets are a low glycemic index. You eat a large millet meal in the morning and you can burn through it during the day. Yes, very sensible. No denying that. But you can't just switch over from one to the other. Your digestive system will go into traumatic shock. Not to mention, every sensible millet person will tell you, multi-millet is not a thing. One millet at a time. People will be like, oh no, I have been eating a mix of 6 millets.
Multigrain.
Multigrain. It's millets, multigrain is not a great idea. So all good dietitians will tell you 1 millet at a time.
And
if
balance.
you're starting with millets, 1 meal a week for a few months, then 2 meals a week, and then maybe bring it up to 1 meal a day. I will eat millets all 3 meals of my day.
But
Suicidal.
what if I decided not to eat wheat and rice in my diet and convert myself to millet on a daily basis?
You could
like
do
jawar
it.
bhakris or bajra or whatever,
You could do it, but what you would need to do was also limit the quantity of bhakri that you ate. Okay. You can't do a one-on-one.
So I can't eat as many chapatis, as many bhakris as I would do chapatis.
Yes. Also, you will need to look at eating some of your millets by themselves, not as a chapati. So, for example, variche tandoor.
Variche tandoor, correct.
That would be something very sensible to maybe twice a week or thrice a week have. But again, it would have to be in balance. Something that very few people realize today is that a good, I'm saying good, balanced vegetarian diet is a diet of enormous privilege. It means that you can access that many vegetarian items, okay, to give yourself a balanced diet, which means that you're very well off. Because those vegetables will be way more expensive than just eating rice, and more rice. Have you noticed that most dals in India will disappear into the rice when you pour them?
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So how much protein are you getting out of your dal?
Nothing.
Not to mention, Indians will tell you, I have got protein in my diet. I am eating dal. Arey bhai sahab, dal is not a protein. Dal is a complex carbohydrate with more protein than a cereal. More, not
It's
pure
not a full protein.
Yeah. So full protein is a non-vegetarian protein source.
Although horse gram and all is...
Again, more.
Yeah.
So levels of more. But you can actually switch to getting your daily requirements from paneer, tofu, things like that. But you'd have to have 200 grams of paneer every day.
Is that a lot?
Now, I don't think it's a lot. You might not think it's a lot. But for a lot of people not used to that much dairy, 200 grams of paneer is a lot of paneer, number
And
one.
the more people are here are all lactose intolerant and can't eat milk, can't drink.
98% of lactose intolerant and so-called celiac disease people are lying to themselves. Most people who say that, oh, I can't handle bread any longer, I have a gluten allergy. They don't have a gluten allergy. Gluten allergy is damn serious. It's not a funny thing, okay? Celiac disease is a very, very serious problem. And most of them are just being triggered by chemicals that are being put into their breads and things like that, into their attas. Not by the gluten
Itself.
So you're blaming the gluten for it. Like I said, there are very few people who really have a gluten allergy, and for them it's a deathly thing. It's not funny. It's like there are a few people in the world who have an allergy to corn. They will go into anaphylactic shock if you feed them corn flour.
Yeah, it's like, we hear of this in America more than in India, but allergy to peanuts.
Yes.
You know, which you eat one peanut and
You blow up.
choke because
Yeah.
your
So I have an
larynx-
allergy to crabs. To
How
crab shell. That's a
sad.
horrible allergy. It's
How
very sad.
sad.
I can't eat crab anymore because my throat just locks up.
Really?
Yeah, just locks up. Now, it's stupid because, you can keep breathing through your nose. But when you choke,
No, you don't
your
want to
hindbrain takes over.
You don't want to choke.
You don't want to choke. So you start freaking out. The best thing for you to do when you have that kind of a seizure is to pass out. Because then
Nature takes its
nature
course.
takes over and you start breathing.
Okay, quickly, before we end the episode, since we were talking about really ancient foods, today's diet, what 3 meals were there in ancient India that you think should be brought back?
Okay, so number one would be a millet and meat porridge.
Millet and?
Meat porridge.
Oh,
So you cook your jowar with keema.
nice. Okay.
Or your, even better actually is you cook your bajra with keema.
Like a Scotch broth?
Very much.
Yeah.
So slow cooked, and you put in everything that you can into it. So whatever vegetables are available, you bung them into it. So this is, what a lot of Europeans ate till very recently. There was a stew pot. Things kept going into the stew pot. And whatever it was ladled out and fed to people. It might be a lot of cabbage. It just might be a lot of potato. Whatever. This is what was. And the flavor was built up over time. So good high vegetable, high dal khichdis, which were a very, very big part of Indian food. So a khichdi made with at least 1 part dal to every 2 parts of rice. At least. Okay? And mix it up. It doesn't have to be dal. It can be moong. It can be matki. It can be black-eyed peas.
Correct.
Mix and match. Don't fry everything in besan.
I agree.
Why not start frying things in black-eyed pea powder? So black-eyed pea powder works just as well as besan does.
As in a batter, you make out of it.
Yeah. Tur dal will do the same thing for you.
As besan does.
Masoor dal will do the same thing. You can make an amazing hummus out of masoor dal.
I'm sure you can, yes.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say
So
is,
what you're telling me is like a Parsi masoor ma gosht is probably the best combined meal that you can eat.
masoor majeeb.
But I've eaten your masoor majib.
What I'm trying to say is go back to a lot of kadhanya.
Kadhanya.
Okay, so basically your whole pulses, your beans. There's an entire movement in the world now, with very carefully researched movement, which is saying that beans are the answer. If we want to feed the world, beans are the answer.
My personal choice, I will choose beans over vegetables any day. I grew up detesting most vegetables, and I don't include onion and potato.
onion, garlic,
as a-
potato are not
garlic as a
vegetables.
but my bean, I really, till today, I can have a full meal with only beans and without any meat.
That's what I'm saying. That is a good meal.
Yeah.
So if you eat more beans, you eat stews made of beans, okay? So you eat a large bowl of boiled rajma, is far healthier than eating a bowl of rice with dal on it.
Matki, moong, saudi,
Moat,
kulit, double B. I don't know what
Double
they call
B,
it.
yes, double B.
Kidney beans. On that very healthy note, I think it's been an interesting conversation. We have to have you back because there are so many more. We've got another century to discuss. Yeah, why we eat the way we eat. So, Kurush, thank you so much.
Absolute
It's been
pleasure.
a pleasure. So, see you the next time on this show with more things about India and the history, more stories on this show, which is called A Century of Stories India, brought to you by IDFC First Bank. I've just brought you a fascinating story, and now IDFC First Bank brings you safe banking tips. Protect yourself and your devices from malware that could actually lock you out of your own data until you pay a ransom for it. So, if you get any emails with attachments, offers, and web links that look dubious, do not click. Keep yourself and your data safe.
IVM